The unexpected catch. The wind howled through the alien forest, sharp and cold. Tall blue trees bent and swayed, their glowing leaves shaking in the night. Eli tightened his jacket and checked the trap he had set earlier. It was a simple snare, made from wire and old Earth tech. He wasn't hunting for sport. He just needed food to survive. Life on this strange planet wasn't easy. He had been alone here for months, a stranded human after a crash. No rescue, no signal, only the forest, the cold and silence. As he sat near his small shelter, built from broken ship parts and metal panels, he heard it. A loud snap, then a scream. But it wasn't an animal's cry. It was sharp, high-pitched, almost human. Eli grabbed his flashlight and ran toward the noise. His boots crunched over the glowing moss. The trees around him pulsed with strange light as he moved, deeper into the woods. The trap was about 100 meters out. He approached slowly, heart racing, and then he saw her. A figure lay twisted in the trap, but it wasn't a creature. It was a girl, an alien girl. She had long white hair that shimmered like silk. Her skin was pale violet, glowing softly in the dark. Thin, fragile limbs shook as she struggled. Her big silver eyes were full of fear. One of her legs was caught in the snare, bleeding badly. She looked up at Eli, breathing fast, chest rising and falling. She started shouting something in a language he didn't understand. Her voice was musical but filled with panic. He raised his hands. Hey, I won't hurt you. I'm not your enemy." She didn't understand. Her fingers grabbed a nearby rock and held it up like a weapon. Her body was shaking. Eli took a deep breath and slowly stepped forward. "I'm going to help you. Please. You'll bleed out if I don't." She still didn't stop. He showed her his empty hands again, knelt down and gently touched the wire. She flinched hard. But when he carefully began to loosen it, she stopped moving. She was watching him, silent now, her face tight with pain. After a minute of struggle, the wire came loose. Her leg was free, but badly cut. Eli gently lifted her into his arms. She was light, very light. She weakly tried to push away. No, please. Don't eat me." Eli froze. The words were broken English, terrible pronunciation, but clear enough. He blinked. "What? Eat you? I'm not. What the hell?" But she passed out in his arms, exhausted and cold. Back in the shelter, Eli placed her on a soft bed made of thermal blankets. He turned on a heater and used antiseptic on her wound. She groaned in pain but didn't wake up. Her skin was warm, glowing faintly, like moonlight underwater. Her breath was fast but steady. Eli sat down beside her, confused and tense. What was she doing here? Who was she? And why did she think he was going to eat her? He looked at her closely now. Her face was young, barely adult. Her fingers had strange markings like glowing tattoos. Her clothes were torn and dirty, clearly not from any high-tech alien race. She looked like she had been running, hiding. Eli leaned back against the wall and sighed. "I set that trap for dinner," he said quietly. "Didn't think dinner would talk." She flinched in her sleep. Eli stood up and walked to the window. The forest outside was quiet now, but he had the strange feeling that someone else might be looking for her. And if they were anything like the creatures he had seen before, she wasn't safe. Neither was he. At dawn, the alien girl stirred. Her eyes opened slowly, scanning the room. When she saw him, she tried to sit up, panic flashing across her face. "It's okay," Eli said softly. "You're safe. I helped you. You're okay now." She didn't respond. Her silver eyes just watched him. Carefully, silently. He handed her a warm cup of water. She stared at it, then at him. "Drink," he said, motioning. She finally took the cup and sipped slowly. Then she whispered again in broken English. "No eat, girl?" Eli raised a brow and laughed. No eat, girl." She blinked. Then, for the first time, she gave a small nod. Fear and firelight. The small fire crackled inside the shelter. casting flickering shadows on the metal walls. Eli sat across from the alien girl, watching her with quiet eyes. She had barely moved since waking. Her injured leg was wrapped in soft cloth. Her hands still clutched the blanket like armor. She didn't speak. She only stared into the fire. Her silver eyes reflected the flames, and her face, though young, carried the weight of someone who had seen too much. Eli knew that look. He had worn it once. He slid a bowl of warm soup toward her. It wasn't much, just some root vegetables and dried meat he had boiled together. She looked at it, then at him. Her fingers twitched. "Food," he said softly. "Eat. You need strength." She didn't touch it. Instead, she asked in her broken English, "No. Trick?" "No trick," Eli said. "Just soup." Still, she didn't move. Eli sighed and leaned back. "You think I'm going to poison you, huh? Or maybe cook you next?" The girl didn't answer, but a shiver ran through her shoulders. Then, suddenly, she whispered a single word. "Rinari." Eli blinked. "What?" She pointed to herself. "Rinari. My name." He gave a small smile. "Rinari. I'm Eli." Her lips didn't smile back, but something in her eyes softened. That night, as the fire burned low, Eli took out an old piece of scrap metal and began scratching lines onto it with a rock. It was a habit, one he'd picked up during long, silent nights. Sometimes it helped him think. Rinari watched with curiosity, her head tilted. Eli noticed. "Want to try?" He handed her the rock. Slowly, carefully, she reached out and took it. For the first time, her fingers touched his skin. A spark, just a small one, passed between them. Her hand flinched, but she didn't pull away. She scratched a symbol on the metal, 3 curves and a dot. Then she pushed it back to him. "What's that?" Eli asked. Rinari tapped her chest. "Home." He looked at the symbol. "You miss it?" She didn't answer, but her eyes turned glassy and her lips trembled. "I get it," Eli said quietly. "I miss home, too." They sat in silence. The only sound was the fire and the soft hum of the night outside. But then, there was something else. A chirping sound. High-pitched, repeating. Rinari's body went stiff. She grabbed Eli's arm suddenly. Her nails dug into his jacket. "No fire off." "What?" Eli asked, confused. She pointed at the flames. "Signal. Bad. They see." Eli understood. The firelight. It was a beacon. He quickly poured sand over it, killing the flame. Darkness filled the room. They sat still. Outside, the wind changed, the glowing trees dimmed. Something moved in the distance. Eli reached for his small blaster and crouched near the door. "Stay here," he whispered. But Rinari stood up. She limped beside him, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. She pulled a strange device from her belt. He hadn't seen it before. It looked like a crystal knife, but it pulsed with blue light. "Rinari," he said, "you're hurt. Stay down." She shook her head. "They come. Not stop for fire. Not stop for you." "Who?" Eli asked. She turned to him with fear in her voice. "Hunters." Outside in the trees, something watched them. Dark shapes, not animals, not soldiers. Hunters, tall, masked aliens with scanning visors and silent feet, moving in a group. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. They were tracking a signal, and Rinari was the signal. Back inside, Eli stared at the girl. "Why are they after you?" he asked. She looked at him, struggling to find the words. Then she touched her own chest, above the heart. Her glowing tattoo shifted and shimmered like moving light. "Inside me. Key," she said slowly. "For door. Big. Door forbidden." Eli's eyes narrowed. "You're a map? A code?" She nodded. "I run. Hide. If they catch, open death." Eli's grip on the blaster tightened. She wasn't just a girl, she was a secret, a dangerous one. And now, because he saved her, he was part of that secret too. The air outside changed again. Heavy steps approached. Eli looked at her. "Can you fight?" Rinari raised her glowing knife. "I fight if you do." The language of hands. The forest was silent now, but not in a peaceful way. It was the kind of silence that came just before something terrible arrived. Eli stood at the edge of his shelter, gripping his blaster tight. Beside him, Rinari's breathing was shallow. She clutched the glowing knife in her hand, its light barely showing in the dark. Suddenly, Eli turned to her. "Do they speak? The hunters?" Rinari shook her head. No words. Only pain. He looked at her glowing tattoos. They were moving, lines shifting like rivers under her skin. "What are those?" She looked down at her arm, then slowly held it out to him. Her hand moved in a series of sharp, clean gestures, a strange pattern, a silent message. "I speak this way," she whispered. "My people." We used hands before voices. Eli slowly mimicked the signs she made. She smiled faintly for the first time. "Smart," she said. "Lucky guess," Eli replied. "Now come on. We need a plan." They moved quickly, gathering supplies. Eli handed Rinari a heat cell and motioned for her to hold it close to her wounded leg. She limped less now, but not enough to run. "Can you hide in the cave near the ridge?" Eli asked. She shook her head, firmly. "No, if I run, you die." He stared at her for a moment. "You'd stay? To help me?" She nodded. "You healed me. I fight with you now." Before he could answer, the shelter's early alarm beeped, a signal from the edge of the clearing. They were here. 3 hunters entered the clearing. They wore black armor, tall and faceless. Long rifles with glowing tips rested in their arms. Their helmets scanned the camp in silence. Rinari froze. Her hands trembled. She dropped her knife and covered her ears. "They use sound," she whispered. "Pain sound. Only for us." Eli aimed his blaster. "Not for humans." He stepped outside and fired a warning shot into the air. One hunter turned his head slightly. Another raised his rifle. Eli raised both hands. "I don't want to fight, but you're not taking her." No reply. The rifles powered up. Eli dove behind a crate as the first blast hit. Sparks flew. Heat scorched his back. He rolled and fired again. One hunter took a hit in the shoulder but didn't fall. These things didn't feel pain. Rinari screamed inside the shelter, not from fear, but from her own body lighting up. Her tattoos blazed white. Her voice cracked the air like a siren. The hunters staggered slightly. Eli saw his chance. He grabbed a flash grenade and tossed it. Boom! Light flooded the area. Eli dashed forward, knocking one hunter down. He slammed the butt of his blaster into its mask. It cracked, revealing pale flesh underneath. The thing growled. Then, behind him, Rinari stood tall. Her knife glowed brighter than ever. She slashed one hunter across the back. He dropped to his knees. The third hunter aimed at her. Eli shouted, "Rinari!" But she didn't run. Instead, she made a motion with her hand. Not to him, to the hunter. A complex sign. Eli saw the alien freeze. The hunter tilted its head, then slowly lowered. Its weapon. Rinari stepped closer. Her hands moved again. Faster now, graceful and sharp like a dance. The hunter responded with his own signs. Less smooth, more broken. Eli watched, stunned. They were talking. After a moment, the hunter pointed to Rinari's chest, then to the sky, then made a slicing gesture. He was telling her, "If you stay, they'll come for all. Death will follow." Rinari nodded, but didn't back away. She pointed to Eli, then to herself. Then she pressed her hands together, bonded. The hunter paused, then backed away slowly, turning toward the forest. The other two followed. They didn't attack again. They vanished into the trees like shadows. Eli exhaled, confused and shaking. He looked at Renari. What just happened? She dropped her knife and sat down, breathing hard. They were sent to kill, until they saw your mark. My mark? She reached over, took his hand, and pressed her fingers over a scar on his wrist. The one he had since childhood. A mark made by fire. Old blood, she said. Your kind, linked to mine. Long ago. You didn't know? Eli shook his head. I'm just a pilot. I fix ships. I hunt for dinner. She looked at him, her silver eyes calm now. No, you protect. You fight. You carry the spark. He didn't understand, but deep down he felt something new, like this moment was bigger than him. That night, as they sat quietly in the dark, Renari reached for the metal sheet again. She drew a new symbol. Eli asked, What does that mean? She smiled. Friend. The hidden Truthily woke to a strange hum vibrating through the shelter walls. The forest outside was silent, but something was wrong. The light had changed. Green fog drifted across the ground like mist, and the trees glowed less brightly. Everything looked still, too still. He sat up, eyes darting to where Renari had been sleeping. She was gone. His heart raced. He grabbed his blaster and stepped outside. That's when he saw the light. A soft blue glow coming from the base of a tree not far from the camp. He ran toward it, quiet, fast. Renari stood there, her back to him, her hands pressed against the bark. The tree had split open like a door, revealing a hidden chamber filled with light and soft sounds like whispers in the wind. He called out softly, Renari? She didn't turn. Instead, she stepped into the tree and vanished. Eli froze. His brain screamed at him to stay put, but his feet moved on their own. He followed. Inside was not a tree. It was an ancient alien room. Walls of glowing roots and floating symbols surrounded him. The air was warm, filled with strange scents, like flowers and electricity. The space was alive. Renari stood in the center of a glowing platform. Her tattoos were shining again, but brighter, like they were syncing with the room. Eli looked around in awe. What is this? Renari finally turned. This is not forest, she said slowly. This is memory. Memory? He asked. She stepped forward and placed her hand on his chest. You hold key, she whispered. Then the room responded. Images burst around them, floating lights forming into pictures. A memory from long ago, an alien city, burning, ships in the sky, fleeing. A human man wearing old armor stood beside a figure like Renari. They were protecting something. A glowing crystal was placed inside a child's chest. That child had glowing tattoos. That child was her. Eli's mouth fell open. That's you. Renari nodded. Long ago, my people trusted humans. We shared power, but others wanted to steal it. So we ran, hid me. They erased the path, only bloodline could find it again. She looked into his eyes. Your blood. Eli backed up slightly. No, I'm just a guy, a pilot, a nobody. She shook her head. Not nobody. You carry fire. What does that mean? He asked. She took his hand and placed it on one of the floating symbols. The room lit up again. A map appeared. Not of the forest, of the stars. A path, marked with golden trails, leading to a world hidden in the black. A world marked as origin, Renari whispered. They will come for this, for me, for you. But this map, it's hope. Eli stared at the glowing lines. Why me? Why not someone stronger? Smarter? Renari smiled. Because you stayed. When I was weak, you didn't run. Suddenly, the lights dimmed. The room shuddered. A low warning tone echoed through the chamber. Renari's eyes widened. They found the gate. Who? Eli asked, raising his blaster. Not hunters, she whispered. The one who made them. They ran from the chamber, back through the tree and into the forest. The fog had thickened. The air smelled like burning metal. In the distance, a massive ship was descending, black and wide like a beast. Its belly opened and strange drones dropped to the ground, spreading like insects. Eli turned to Renari. How do we stop them? She looked up at the sky. We don't. Yet. But they'll find this place. She touched his arm. We hide the memory again. You carry peace. In you. Eli shook his head. Wait, what? She pressed her palm to his chest. A small crystal like the one from the vision melted into his skin, vanishing without pain. He gasped. What did you do? Renari stepped back. Now you are the gate. The drones began to scan the forest. The ship above rumbled. Eli grabbed her hand. Then we run. She nodded. Together. And they vanished into the trees, the secret burning. Inside them both. Hunters in the fog-thick fog swallowed the forest like a ghostly sea. Eli ran fast, his breath sharp in his chest. Behind him, Renari limped but kept up, her body glowing faintly with every step. The trees were shadows now, the glowing moss below their feet the only guide. Overhead, the black alien ship hovered like a vulture. Its massive body rumbled, and new machines dropped from its sides, silent flying drones with red scanning eyes. They're sweeping everything, Eli said. Looking for us. Renari nodded, pressing her hand to her chest. They feel me. My signal. Getting stronger. Eli paused behind a fallen log. Can you stop it? She shook her head. It's not in me now. It's in you. Eli's stomach turned. The crystal she had placed in him was no longer a symbol of hope. It was a beacon. They'll never stop chasing me now, he muttered. Us, she corrected. A sudden buzzing filled the air. Eli pushed Renari down just as a drone zipped by above their heads. The machine scanned the area, its red light sweeping over the trees. Then it froze. Its eye blinked rapidly. It had picked up something. Eli knew they had only seconds. He grabbed a rock and hurled it into the trees to the left. The drone turned toward the sound and chased it. Renari looked at Eli. You think fast. I think scared, he replied. They reached the edge of a cliff where the trees opened into a wide canyon. At the bottom was an old crash site, a ship broken and half buried in dirt and vines. Eli's eyes lit up. That's a wreck from the old war. Maybe it still has a power core. Renari tilted her head. Dangerous, but strong energy. That's the point, Eli said. If we overload it, we might knock out their scans. Or blow us up, she said calmly. Eli grinned. Only if we do it wrong. They climbed down fast. The wind howled through the canyon walls. The broken ship was cold and dead, but deep inside Eli found the engine room. Ancient wires, fused circuits, sparks still pulsed under the panels. Renari touched the wall and whispered in her language. A light flickered on. This ship was from my people, she said softly. Eli raised an eyebrow. Then let's bring it back to life. As Eli worked to reroute power, Renari stood watch outside. The fog was lifting, but not in a good way. The hunters had arrived. 3 tall figures appeared over the ridge. Not drones, not machines. These were real, the elite ones. Their armor was smoother, their faces hidden behind black glass. And they didn't make a sound. One lifted a device. Its red needle spun, then stopped, pointing straight at the canyon. They were coming. Inside, Eli rewired the last panel. The power core hissed to life, glowing blue and unstable. He shouted, I need 30 more seconds. Renari drew her glowing knife and stood in the entrance, her legs shaking but her eyes fierce. The hunters dropped into the canyon like shadows. She didn't wait. She ran toward them. Eli's eyes widened. Renari! She slashed at the first hunter, fast and brutal. The blade sliced his shoulder, but he didn't stop. He grabbed her arm and threw her to the ground. She rolled, coughing, then used her hand signs again, desperate. But they didn't respond this time. They weren't here to talk. They were here to erase. Eli looked at the glowing power core. It was almost ready. He stood up, took a deep breath, and ran outside, blaster in hand. He fired at the second hunter, hitting it in the leg. It turned, emotionless, and charged. Renari crawled forward and stabbed it in the back, buying Eli a second. But the third hunter raised its weapon directly at her. Eli jumped in front of her. Blast. Pain exploded in his shoulder. He fell, blaster slipping from his hand. The hunter stepped closer. Renari screamed. And then, the power core exploded. Not a full blast, but a shockwave of energy swept through the canyon. Blue light cracked the ground and shorted out every machine in sight. The hunters froze, twitching, then dropped to the ground, unconscious. Eli coughed, blood running down his arm. Renari crawled to him, her hands shaking. "You saved me," she whispered. "You started it," he smiled weakly. "I just finished the fight." She helped him sit against the wall. The wind was calm now, the sky clearing, but far above. The black ship was still waiting. "They'll send more," Eli said. Renari nodded. "Then we run again." He looked into her eyes. "Where to?" She smiled. "Home." The girl who screamed. The wind over the canyon was quiet now, too quiet. The broken hunters lay on the ground, sparks twitching from their armor. But the ship above, black and endless, had not moved. It waited, and so did Renari. She sat beside Eli, pressing cloth to his shoulder. His face was pale, his body cold, but he was alive. "You were stupid," she whispered. Eli gave a weak grin. "Thanks. That means I did it right." She smiled back, but it was brief. The ground vibrated again. A low hum echoed across the valley. The mothership was powering something up. "They send the caller," Renari said. "The what?" She stood and looked up. Her body trembled, her tattoos glowing dim white. "The one that screams louder than I can." A silver beam shot down from the sky, landing in the canyon center. It formed a shape, mechanical, tall, and twisted. Not a drone. Not a hunter. Something older. Its limbs were like blades. Its head was round and featureless. From it came a low hum that began to rise. Renari's hands went to her ears. "It's here, the voice breaker." Eli stood, shaky but ready. "What does it do?" "It shatters our kind, from the inside." Before he could speak again, the machine let out a blast, a silent scream. There was no sound, but the world shook. Renari fell to her knees, blood dripping from her nose. Her tattoos turned red. Her body spasmed. She let out a weak cry, trying to stand, but couldn't. Eli stumbled toward her, shielding her with his body. "Stay with me," Renari gasped, her fingers digging into the earth. "Run. You, not built for this." "I'm not leaving you." She looked at him, eyes wide and full of pain. Then, a tear slipped down her cheek. She pressed her hand to his chest. "Forgive me." Then she screamed, not from fear, from deep inside her soul. It started soft, but it grew fast. A roar of light and sound exploded from her body. The wind tore through the canyon. Trees bent. Rocks cracked. The voice-breaker machine staggered back, its body shaking. Her scream wasn't just sound, it was power. The light from her chest formed wings, pure energy, stretching behind her like flames. Her tattoos turned golden. Her eyes glowed like stars. She was no longer just a girl. She was a guardian, awakened after centuries of silence. The voice-breaker tried again, blasting another silent wave. But this time, Renari stood tall and pushed back. She raised her hands and the air cracked. Eli fell to the ground, shielding his face. When he looked again, the machine was melting, its body breaking into dust. Renari floated above the ground now, glowing brighter, then the sky. Then, just like that, it ended. She collapsed. The light vanished, and silence returned. Eli rushed to her. She lay there, breathing weakly, her body pale and shaking. "Hey," he whispered. "Stay awake, you hear me?" Her lips moved. "I didn't know I still had it." "What was that?" She smiled faintly. "My scream, our last weapon. My mother called it the cry of the first flame." Eli touched her cheek. "Well, remind me not to make you angry." She laughed. "Just a little." Far above, the black ship finally moved, but not forward. It turned away. It began rising back into the stars. They had seen enough. They had feared what they saw. The threat was no longer just the girl. It was the human, beside her. The scream had chosen him too. That night, Eli built a fire, careful, small. Renari lay beside it, recovering. Her voice was weak, but her spirit was calm. "You didn't run," she said. "I told you," Eli replied. "I'm a terrible runner." She reached out and took his hand. "You saw my worst." And stayed. "I saw your strength," he said. "That's not the same as worst." She looked at the stars. "Then maybe now, we find my people." He smiled. "We?" She nodded. "You carry the flame now, too." Eli looked at the glowing mark on his wrist, the one left behind after the scream. He didn't know what it meant yet, but he knew one thing. He would never let go of her hand, more than a trap. The morning after the scream was quiet. The sky above the forest was clear for the first time in weeks. No ships, no drones, no machines. Only the wind whispering through the glowing trees. Eli and Renari walked slowly across the forest trail. She leaned on him for support, her energy still weak, her steps small, but her face was calm. Every step they took together meant something now. "You think they're gone for good?" Eli asked. Renari looked up at the sky. "For now, they fear what woke up inside me. And you." He touched the mark glowing faintly on his wrist. "Still don't know what this means." "It means the flame chose you," she said softly. "I thought it chose you." She smiled. "It did. Now it chose us." They stopped by the old clearing, where the trap had been set. It was still there. Rusty wires, snapped twigs, a reminder of how it all started. Renari stared at it. Her eyes were distant. "You thought I would eat you," Eli joked. She turned and laughed softly. "I did. My kind heard stories, humans hunting, stealing, burning. And now?" She stepped forward and gently disassembled the trap with her hands. Slowly, carefully. Then she placed a small blue flower where it had been. "Now," she said, "I know humans also. Protect." Eli looked down. "I didn't mean to catch you." Renari smiled gently. "But you did catch me. Not with wire, with something else." She took his hand and placed it over her heart. Her pulse was slow, but steady. "You gave when you had little. Fought when you were outnumbered. Stayed when I told you to run." "I didn't know what else to do," he said. "That's why it mattered," she replied. Later that day, they reached the hilltop where the signal tower stood. It was part of Eli's old ship, long dead, covered in moss, but he had worked for months trying to fix it. Now, with Renari's help, it lit up. The beacon fired into the sky, a golden flare reaching toward the stars. "Someone will hear that," Eli said. "Someone good?" she asked. "I hope so." She looked at him. "If it's bad, will you run then?" Eli chuckled. "You already know the answer." That night, they sat by the fire one last time. Renari traced symbols in the dirt. Not warnings, not maps, just stories, simple ones of her world, her childhood, her dreams. Eli listened, fascinated. Then he added his own. About Earth, about how he once feared silence, and now found peace in it. She reached out her hand and wrote one final word in their shared language. Simple lines, glowing with soft, light, bond. He asked, "What does that mean on your world?" She answered, "When two souls survive the same storm, when pain becomes strength, when fear becomes trust." Eli was quiet for a moment. Then he picked up a stone and carved the same symbol into his old blaster. "I'll remember," he said. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "You don't have to remember," she whispered. "You're part of it, now." A few days later, a ship did come, but not one of war. It was old, peaceful, and silent. From deep space. From Renari's people. What was left of them. When they saw her, they bowed low. Not to a girl, but to a flame reborn. And when they saw Eli, they paused. A human holding her hand, but Renari raised her voice. "He is mine, not as a prisoner, as protector, as equal." They said nothing, but they welcomed him. As the ramp opened and the ship hummed to life, Eli looked back one last time at the forest, where it had all started, where he had been a man alone, and accidentally caught a girl who would change his life forever. Renari stood beside him. She turned, smiled, and said gently, "You caught me in your trap, but I chose to stay in your heart." And together, they stepped into the stars.